Good morning, third grade. Hey, I'm here with the fourth grade Rats by Jerry Spinelli. And yesterday we read chapter 7 and 8. Chapter 7 was called Trashing Joey's Room. I can tell you, if my kids did this, I would not be a happy mom. And chapter 8 was Training Camp, where Joey was trying to teach Suds how to be a rat. I don't know about you, but if I was on that roof and I fell off, I would be done being a rat. So today we are going to read chapter 9. You want a rat? Here we go. It was lunchtime. I took my tray through the food line as usual. I waited for Joey. As I was waiting, I saw a light that made my eyes pop. Judy Billings was sitting a couple tables away by herself. Usually she was surrounded by girlfriends. Judy Billings, alone. I couldn't believe it, and I couldn't pass up the chance. Walking over to her table was as scary as walking on the roof, but I did it. I sat down next to her. Hi, I said. Mind if I sit here? She kept looking at her grilled cheese. Yes, she said. I giggled. I grinned. I was thrilled. Yes! It was the first word she ever spoke to me. I'd remember it forever. Yes, yes, yes. I said, I mind, she said. Oh, I said. What should I do? I was in too deep to back out now. Okay, I said. I got up and sat on the other side of her. This better? No. She kept speaking to the grilled cheese sandwich. Did she think I was the sandwich? I felt my chair move. I looked up into the face of Gerald Willis. He was pulling my chair backwards. When it was away from the table, he tipped it forward. I slid off to the floor. It was the bench at the talent show all over again, only worse. I got up. I slunk away. Kids were laughing. One of them was a third-grade angel eating a piece of chocolate cake. I didn't take the cake from the angel's hand. I shoved his hand, cake and all, into his face. Then I mashed it around. The whole joint was howling. As I walked out of school that day, Judy Billings happened to be right behind me. This time, I didn't hold the door for her. I let it shut in her face. I went straight home and up to my room. With one swipe of my hand, I sent my whole Matchbox car collection flying from the top of my bookcase. I probably would have destroyed my room right then if I hadn't headed for the bathtub. No tugboat and dinosaur this time, just me and the water. I didn't turn it on till it was up past my belly button. I didn't turn it off till it was up past my belly button. I sank into it as deep as I could. I wanted it to pull over me like a blanket. I wanted to forget the day. I wanted to forget fourth grade. By the time I got out, I thought I was feeling better. I was wrong. As soon as I got back to my room, I punched Winky, my bear. At dinner time, Zippernose smirked and sneered and snickered until my mother finally said, "What is it?" "I can't tell," giggled Zippernose. "I'll get in trouble." "If you don't stop carrying on, you'll be in trouble." "Okay, I'll tell." My mother looked at me. I'm not sure I even want to know. I'll let Suds tell me later if he wants to. "No!" screeched Zippernose. "I want to tell." And before anyone could stop her, she told about Gerald Willis in the chair, about the third grader and the cake in the face, about the whole place laughing. Bubba was going into spasms over the cake scene. My parents just stared at me. My mother looked hurt. "That doesn't sound like you, Suds," she said. "They were laughing," I reminded her. "Are you going to attack everybody who laughs at you for the rest of your life?" "Yeah," I said. "Maybe I will." I got up from the table and stomped off. "Take a bath," my mother called. I did. "Take another." I took another. Didn't do any more good than the first. I decided to go to bed early, get myself unconscious as quickly as possible. I put on my PJs, turned out the light, and got under the covers. I felt something with my foot. What could it be? under there. It felt like wood. It felt like snap! Yow! Suddenly I was on the floor and the mouse trap was on my big toe. I pried it off. I went to the door, yanked it open. I heaved the trap down the hallway. I screamed, "Okay, you want a rat? You got a rat!" Chapter 10 is no. Who do you suppose Suds is going to tell no to? Let's find out. For the next 2 days, I went on a rampage. If I saw a little kid with a Twinkie I wanted, I snatched it from him. If I saw a little kid on a swing, I pushed him off, whether I wanted to use it or not. I laughed in class during silent reading. The teacher told me to stop. I kept laughing. She gave me a detention after school, my first ever detention. I laughed all the way through it. Instead of putting candy wrappers in my pocket, I threw them in the street. I walked across people's front yards. I rang doorbells and ran. My mother put a new box of Klondike bars in the freezer. I ate them all. I stuck chewing gum on my bedpost. I left my dirty clothes on the floor. The next time Bubba bared his fangs and went whack, 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 I said, "That's my name. Badness is my game." And I tied him to the bathroom doorknob. I snuck up on Zipper Nose. She was in her room lying on her stomach on the floor reading, wearing socks. I pounced. I plunked myself smack on the back of her legs. In a second, I had her socks off. Most times when I tickle her, I would stop when she started screaming. This time, I didn't. She laughed and screamed and bawled herself blue. I didn't stop until my father pulled me off. He shook me by the shoulders. "What's gotten into you lately?" "Nothin'," I said. "Just getting her back." What was getting into me? Even I didn't know. Didn't care either. All I knew, whatever it was, it felt good. It felt great. Why had I waited until so late in my life to have my first rampage? Joey was right. Angels finish last. No more last for me. This dude was heading for the gold medal. I ran upstairs. I pointed at Winky. "You're holding me back," I told him. "You're out of here." I opened my window and punted him to the backyard. There was only one thing left to do. My chance came the next morning. As I was getting ready for school, my mother poked her head into my doorway. "Pick up this floor before you go," she said. "It's a war zone." She was already gone from the doorway when I sent my answer. "I don't have to." She appeared again. "Pardon me?" "I don't have to," I repeated. "It'll only take a minute. Make time." "After school," I said. "Now," she said. "No," I said. Before she recovered from the shock, I was past her and down the steps. "I'll see you when you come straight home after school," she called as I breezed out the door. The next voice I heard was a whole lot different. I was half a block up the street when I heard it, behind me. "Hi, Suds." I turned. Not that I had to turn to see who it was. I could have picked Judy Billings' voice out of a million. She was smiling. She was looking at me. I wasn't a grilled cheese anymore. We walked to school together. Judy did most of the talking. She kept telling me how famous I was. Everybody was talking about me. But I was only half hearing. I was in a daze. I just kept looking at her beautiful face and thinking, "Man, wow, I'm walking to school with Judy Billings. I don't believe it." "Well," I heard her say, "could you?" I snapped out of my daze. "Huh? Could I what?" "Let a bee sit on your arm like Joey Peterson did." "Sure," I said. "No sweat." For Judy Billings, I would have let an alligator sit on my arm. But we couldn't find any bees. So she said, "How about a spider?" "Why not?" I said, playing cool, trying not to sound nervous. We started searching the gutter and sidewalk and the walls of people's houses. I spotted a couple of spiders, but I didn't say anything. Then Judy called, "Hey, look!" It was on somebody's brick wall. It wasn't a little white house spider. It wasn't little, and it wasn't white. It was poking along toward a window. "Just put your hand there in front of it," Judy said. "Let it crawl right on." She was excited. Her eyes were wide. Her voice was squeaky. "Could be a black widow," I said. "So?" she said. "It won't bite unless you're mean to it." She was staring at me, waiting. The last 10 minutes had been the best 10 minutes of my life. Was I going to give it up because I was too chicken to touch a stupid insect? I put my hand on the wall flat. The spider went around it. I did it again. The spider climbed aboard. Judy shrieked, "Yow!" She pulled on my other arm. "Come on!" "Where?" I said. "School! They have to see!" By the time we got to the schoolyard, the spider was up around my elbow. Tiny footed Nightmare was on my skin. Judy called, "Look, everybody, look!" Kids came running. They jerked to a stop when they saw. They gasped and they gawked. "It's a black widow," she announced to them. "He's doing it for me." The spider was up on my shoulder now, heading for my back. I couldn't see it anymore. I kept my face cool, but I was praying. Please don't go on my neck. Especially don't go down my shirt. The bell rang and everybody ran for the door. Nobody was looking. I swatted and twisted till I was sure the spider was gone. At morning recess, I was mobbed. "Wow, Suds! A black widow! Black widow man! Weren't you scared?" "Oh, Suds!" Judy was mobbed too, mostly by girls. "He did it for you?" I guess we were both famous. And that's the end of chapter 10. What will happen when Suds gets home from school? What would happen to you when you got home from school?